And then we got to do an intro actually as well.
You want to do an intro?
I would love an intro. Hey there, welcome to Small Talks. You are listening on whatever podcast site you're on or YouTube or whatever. I'm here with my guest, wise and internationally published Leica photographer.
Right. Sure. I wish. If Leica is watching, hey, take notes. John Hendricks, originally from New York, here in San Antonio. Yep. I'm playing with right now. I don't know if it'll stay, but as of right now, that's what I have. Quiet brilliance. It's like I'm humble, quiet, but I probably know a lot of stuff. I'm also 48, so I've done a lot. You know what I mean? Like I've been around the block. So, but being a part of the clothing company and then shooting and then, like all my friends are into like fashion or design or graphic designers or something. So I've kind of been around it and I kind of see it from afar.
Right.
I think I just had picked up a thing or two, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a long way to say quiet brilliance. That's what I have right now.
I mean, it's a really deep meaning. To you specifically, like it's really ingrained in everything you do.
So that's the point to when you come up with something like that. And I think that's when people miss the mark when they want to come up with they want to brand themselves or do something.
Yeah.
I think they miss the mark with, on many things, but this specifically, whatever you come up with has to be, it can't be so definitive and straight to the point where it's just like, oh, okay. And the conversation ends, right?
Right.
You have to come up with like a phrase or 2 words or 3 word slogan that entices people to want to know more. And then that's your opening. Does that make sense?
It does. That does really make sense. When you explain it, that actually gives me more confidence whenever I think about my own brand. Mm-hmm. But I feel like whenever I explain it to people and I just go on and on and like ranting.
I just ranted for like 10 minutes.
I listened to it and I was like, that's great. Like, that's amazing. I feel like if I say it, I would feel embarrassed for some reason. I'm not sure.
I'm in the same boat. When I speak about it, I'm a little hesitant and I don't know like when I cut myself off and stuff like that. I think that's normal. I think you just play to that's when your emotional intelligence comes in, right? Having the ability to read the room, read people, and know when like, okay, I've gone too far. Or like, oh, they're really digging it, so let me keep going, right?
Or maybe I haven't gone far enough. Let me explain.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Or you just stop and leave room for like, for them to be like, what? Like, tell me more.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I realized the first 10 minutes of your talk were not recorded on here. They're recorded on camera though.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's like we have the audio, we have the camera audio.
Yeah,
we don't have this one though. So, but that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you have a title, or like if I were to introduce you, would there be like I'll introduce you as international Leica photographer John Hendricks?
No, a title. I don't know. This could be part of it too. Like, kind of like what I just went on that rant. It's like I don't want to be solely identified as one thing. I think is why on my Instagram I don't think I have photographer. You can put occupation.
Yes.
I don't think I have photographer. I think I have. Oh, I do. I must have just changed it, but I always had artist.
Oh, really?
I always had artist. Yeah, because I didn't. But I think this is part of the rebranding where I think this is like the ISO stuff. You know what
the search optimization.
Yeah. SEO.
Oh.
Search engine optimization.
Search engine.
So I think that's part of it.
ISO is
camera stuff. So I think that's part of it. I think like when I was looking at stuff, I realized that like everything in here has to apply to like if someone writes your name, it'll be photographer. It'll be, and being artist was too vague. And I think that's why I switched it. But I guess identifier is like, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
If you were to introduce yourself to just a complete stranger, how would you say your occupation? Would you?
No, I usually just give them my name. And so a big part, this is another good one, a big part of talking to people is there's also a motto that says to be interesting, be interested. Okay. You ever heard of that?
No, I don't think so.
Less about you, more about them. So if someone were to be like, hey, what's going on? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, my name is John Hendricks. Blah. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. I live in San Antonio and I'm originally from New York. And I kind of leave it like that. And then I immediately go into like, who are you? And like, what do you do? And I flip it. Like, I just want to hear about them.
Yeah.
And what you'll find is when you leave and then they talk to like a mutual friend, maybe someone who introduced you to, they'll be like, man, that's the most interesting person I ever met, because they're not used to speaking so much about themselves, and everybody wants to speak about themselves.
Right.
But how do you do it? Right. But if someone opens the door and and kind of gives you that invitation, then it's very freeing for the person who's talking.
Right.
So it really is impactful. Like, you really leave an impression on people when you allow someone to speak about themselves. And you kind of just keep digging at it, right? Like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, okay. So what do you do in your time off? Oh, that's great. Oh, so you like being outdoors, blah, blah, blah. And you keep going at it. You'll realize that, like, number one, you know a lot about the person.
Right.
And
you get more information.
Number two, they always feel like they've connected with you somehow, even though it's a first introduction.
Yeah. I feel like I really did connect with you that first time we met.
I do that with everybody. Like, so I do
Dang.
that all the time. So like, and what's really interesting is like, then when I meet someone else and they know the person, I'm just like, oh yeah, like Indie Coffee. Right? Indie Coffee. You know, that's Chris Lee's brother?
Yes.
Okay.
I recognize the connection whenever I went to his like art gallery, or like the photo gallery that they had recently. I realized they were next to each other, and I was like, I think they're brothers. And then someone asked, and I just overheard it. But
okay.
I
so
know
most
I know
people
Chris Lee
don't
more.
know.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Or I wouldn't say most people don't know, but I'll say
I'd say I know Chris Lee more than I do his brother.
I probably know them the same amount. But I was just talking to another one of our mutual friends, and we brought up Indie Coffee. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's Chris's brother. And they were just like, huh? And I've only talked to him 3 times, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I know more than the guys that go to Indie all the time. You know what I mean? Which is weird, but it's not weird because I know what I do, right?
I would say it makes sense to you.
So when I go there, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to him, you know, like, he's like, hey, you were at my brother's show when he did Digital Pro Lab. Mm-hmm. Remember when he was at Digital Pro Lab?
Yes.
He did a segment there for one of their Wednesday photo night stuff. And this also plays into it too. So like, I think the only reason he remembered me is because I like looked up everything on Chris Lee. Like everything.
Yeah, you
like,
did your research
the night
before,
before, like who his mentor is, you know, what did his mentor do? What books did his mentor write? Like everything. Like, so when I was at his show and Chris Lee was talking about how he does all his periodicals and how he does his documentary and stuff like that, like I was not hesitant to be like, oh, so your mentor is this guy. I'd be like, oh yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah. And it would just so happen I had a connection with his mentor. His mentor was in Iraq and documented some guys that a group of people I know. So I was just like, oh yeah, I was there when your mentor was there. And so whatever, he was like, oh right, yeah. So that kind of opened the door.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like picking at like, oh, when you did your segment on Japan, or it's funny because when I lived in Japan, I recognized what you were documenting, right? And I was just like picking apart like his whole bio, but like in dialogue, right?
Oh, damn.
So I know for sure that's why the next time I went to India or I had a show or something, and Chris's brother showed up, and he's like, hey, John, what's up? I'm like, hey, what's going on? I didn't even meet him that night, but he was sitting behind me.
Oh.
I didn't even meet him that night of Chris's show.
Yeah.
But at my show, I think he came to one of the shows that we were at. And he was like talking to me like we were best buds. And then when I went to Indie Coffee, like it was the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the guy's way cool. Like I'm glad he
really
did that.
cool.
You know what I mean? Like, but we didn't really have a lot of exchange and dialogue except for those moments. So, but I was just there for they had a photo book day. Did you see that? They set up a photo book.
Oh,
thing.
yes. Yeah, it was like a photo album event.
Photo book. So
photo
bring a photo book, and everybody was supposed to talk about it.
Oh,
and I went there, and I was hanging out there too. And
I really wanted to go to that, but I was out of town.
So I was hanging out with him at their little bar section, and we were talking and stuff. Yeah, and it's just cool. Like, and that's how everything is for me. You know? Yeah.
Those short little moments that you have with them, you really do connect, and then you let them talk about themselves, and you kind of pry at.
And I don't want it to sound like it's a strategy or
no,
whatever.
No.
It's just I've done it so much, like for like in my last profession, 23 years of dealing with people.
Yeah.
Like, and from all different walks of life, living in Italy, living in Spain, living in Japan. Like, I've really honed in on like people skills,
Right.
you know? So like I have to deal with so many different people and so many different walks of life and so many different, characteristics and, just personalities that like, it's just one of the things that I really tuned into early. And it was just like, okay, this is how I'm always this is like the way I'm going to approach things. And now it's just the way I communicate with people. Right.
Was that all like trial and error, or did someone like teach you on like as you were doing stuff? Because I know you do a lot of relational work or like social work.
So I think it's a little of both. I can't say I'm just like gifted or anything natural, but I think
I mean, you kind of are.
I think it is. I think you. They say it too, right? Like when you watch someone do something, or you have, let's say you have a boss, a manager, a leader, or whatever. You're gonna have bad ones and good ones, right? And they say take something from everyone. Mm-hmm. So from the bad ones, be like, I'm not doing that, and from the good ones, I'm doing that, right? So I think it's more of that. Like I've seen so many people speak.
Yeah.
Like before here, I was in DC, and I had a lot of like, I'd be in rooms with like a lot of bigwigs, and not like Fortune 500 people, more like Defense Department, right? So like Pentagon, stuff like that, right?
That's still pretty big. That's huge.
Yeah, but I don't want people to think it's like, Bill Gates or anything shit. Yeah. But anyway, and you see some people speak, and you kind of pick up on stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And be like, some people are very charismatic and they can hold your attention. And some people can, lose you really fast, right? And you'd be like, oh my God, like I'm not doing that, right? Yeah. And then you start wondering if you're in the same room with one person all the time, and you're always at their board meetings or whatever, and you're hearing them talk, you're just like, at some point, you're just like, okay, what is this guy doing? Why is it so different? And maybe it's just me, but that's what I would be like, why is this guy so like, everybody's listening? Like, what's he doing? And then you kind of pick it apart.
How he's talking, how he's engaging
what does he
everybody.
Do? How does he communicate with the people? How much attention does he give people and stuff like that? Yeah. Yeah. So I just, I think I just picked it up, and now that's just how I am. That's just how I operate. Right?
Okay, yeah, cool. I didn't know if there was like your mentor teaching you, like, hey, you should talk this, or you should.
We have mentors along the way, but what I really realized is that they're good at certain things, but I don't think any of the people that I would call mentors were very good at that.
Oh, okay.
I think that was self-exploration, like going to school. Like I have a degree in organizational leadership.
Okay.
So I think that applying a lot of that stuff, I progressed very quickly in my last profession. So I was put in the spotlight and asked to give presentations and talks and, very early. So I spent a majority, 23 years of that job, I probably spent 12, 13, 14, if not 15 years in a position of like leadership of some sort, managerial.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Like I've always had people, whether it's 10 people, 300 people to watch over and talk to and give advice. You just fine tune your own little things, right?
Right.
So I think that's how I am the way I am, and why, like I could talk to almost anybody, I have no problem talking to people. Like if I go to a coffee shop, I'm going to talk to somebody.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah. I mean, watching you at different events, you hop around like a lot to like different groups and like to even different people who are just standing there. Like
I think of the person, the participant.
Yeah.
Like so someone comes to one of our shows, right? We had a show here in the gallery, right? Some people may show up because they're your friend, or they show up because of my friend. So they don't know everyone, right? So like
they know
I've been that person where like you go somewhere, it's like it's a cool atmosphere, but I don't really know too many people. And if I'm not a social butterfly, like I have to rely on someone to engage with me, right? Mm-hmm. So I always put myself in the worst position of the room. So like, okay, this like if I were to come here and I didn't know nobody, and I'm kind of just like not like I would love to meet people, but I'm not like an extrovert. How does that happen? So someone's got to engage with them, right? So then that's why I purposely walk around and like, okay, I'm going to talk to everybody. And especially the people that aren't already gathering, right? Because those people are flying on their own, right? They they obviously that's their zone, right?
Yeah,
They came
that's
here to
their
talk
thing
to
to do.
everyone. They're not here to look at pictures, right? But you can see the people that are like, in their small little cliques, or one or two people just kind of sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then that's usually the people I'll engage with. Yeah.
Okay. I like that you're like on the lookout for that. Now, does that translate to your photography as well? I feel like, especially whenever you're doing
Good
street
segue.
photography, you're literally like looking at the most, I wouldn't say obscure, but like the most interesting things. And you're framing it in your own mind before you take that photo.
I like that. I like that that's how it's being perceived, but it's not like
I was just curious because I didn't know.
So photography, if we're going to talk about that, I mean, I've been shooting. I just did this on last podcast, which is, or just a talk. I can't remember. Now they're all mixing, but I'm from New York, and I grew up skateboarding, and we were filming and taking pictures of each other, at a very early age. So I always around the camera or taking photos, or had the camera or in the frame, right?
Right.
When I was 7, maybe 8, maybe younger, but we'll say 8, right? Just to put a round number on it. So when I was 8, I started skating. I'm now 48. And I just finished telling you I had a camera ever since. So like that's decades of having a camera, right?
Whoa.
So what people see now, especially when I meet people here, I've only been in San Antonio for now 4 years.
Yeah.
People only know me for what I've done here, right? Nobody, and this happens to everyone, no one ever sees the journey. They just see where you're at currently, right?
Yep.
The haters and the lovers, right? They only acknowledge you for what you're doing currently. And very few people have seen or
the
know
progression,
like everything I've done, right?
Right. The process, the whole.
Yeah, like all the bad photos and all the really great photos that haven't even been seen yet. So you're only seeing what I'm currently doing, and that's like forever evolving, right? Like I'm always changing. I would say right now the way I'm shooting, it's more of like self-exploration. Like I'm trying to figure it out. I really am. I think within this last year, I've really like, so this is my first year of being like dedicated to this, right? Because I've always had another job. And now that I'm retired, right? Like, it's just like, okay, like I don't do anything else. I can do this all day. And I kind of did it. Like I was kind of like no agenda, no schedule for a long time.
Yeah.
And then this May, I was just like, okay, let me buckle down and kind of like give myself some kind of like schedule, right? Or like goal per se, right?
Yeah.
So only as of May have I really started to fine tune what I aspire to do. So it's why there's only like 48 posts on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm constantly put one up, take one down, curating. So what you see currently is more of a reflection of like, I think I figured out what I want to do. And then in my other job, I was in like the medical field, right? So I've seen a lot of like human emotion and human stuff.
Yeah.
And now I kind of look for like the nicer part of humanity, to say the least, right? And not just that, but the little things that, I mean, everybody says this, it's so cliche, but the stuff that like people walk past, or, the little things that are obviously, can be pretty, can be nice, but we kind of just walk past it day to day. So like today's post was a umbrella.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is, just an umbrella, but I mean, I don't know. I took it for a reason, and it looks good to me. And so, I don't know.
I kind of like having the free form. Actually, that's been my life for the past 2 or 3 years, is like I've been prioritizing freedom more than like gaining money or
That's cool.
Or doing organization.
But this is your job.
Not this part, not podcasting.
No. I mean,
Yeah.
You're talking about everything in general. Right?
Yeah, photography, videography, doing these like little side projects. That's my entire job, and I love it.
So you kind of have to balance that.
Yeah, I kind of have to find
your freedom, but at the same time, you gotta make money.
Yeah, like I have to find the ways I can be free and also keep my responsibilities, and also provide for myself and for whoever else I'm providing for. Probably probably why I'm still single. It's like I don't want to get.
I don't want. I can barely afford my own stuff.
Yeah, I was like, like if I'm gonna have a significant other, if I'm gonna have a family, like, I mean, I'm sure you know, like I want to provide, like, everything for them and more
because I get a pension. Right?
Yeah.
Or else I'd have to like, hey, you need to get a fucking job. Stop fucking around.
Which I mean, I've been close to like maybe I should join the military soon. It's like I don't know, but also there have been opportunities out there that I should crunch down on really quick.
Yeah.
But the most recent ones would have me move out of San Antonio.
And you don't want to?
Not right now. I mean, I moved back to San Antonio to help my mom.
Got it.
Just to make sure things are okay with her.
Did you take her in? Are you guys living together?
Yeah, we're living together.
Okay.
And
her brother lives with my mom, so I get it.
My brother is still with the military, so he's back and forth.
What's the States?
Army.
Okay.
He's in South Carolina right now. Columbia. Actually, I'm gonna go there in December.
That's cool. You gonna go visit him?
I'm very excited. They're about to have another baby.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my God! This Sunday, they're doing a gender reveal. I'm gonna be at a wedding, so I'm gonna talk to my client because she was also interested whenever I talked to her about my brother, and she said if they're doing a gender reveal, like I want to be in on it. So I was like, that's perfect.
Really? Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Well, like she wants to see because she just likes that kind of stuff. I think she also she's in the honeymoon phase of her relationship once again because she's about to get married. I also assume that she might have a baby fever as well. So
yeah, I mean she's getting married, so yeah.
So that's
she's like, okay, thing. Now it's time.
That's an exciting I feel like on here we talk about ebbs and flows a lot. That's a nice high that you start getting to. You start up high in your relationship and you don't go low, but you get to a point where it's kind of casual, and comforting, and then you go back up again, and these little roller coaster moments are really exciting and kind of make the relationship or even make the career. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because some people do they'll let's just give round numbers. So you go out for 3 years or 4 years, get married. I said round numbers and I said 3. We go out for 4 years, then get married, and then be like, oh, let's wait a couple of years before we have a kid. So let's say another 4 years, and then they have a kid. So yeah, it's kind of
oh my God, that's
right. And then you have the kid, and it's like, oh yeah, we have a kid. And then when they're twos, there's a reason it's called terrible twos, and you're just like, oh my God, why do we have a kid? And then you go back to the lows, right? And then you're the kid's old enough to feed themselves and do stuff, and then it's all fun again. Yeah, for sure, highs and lows, for sure.
Were there moments that you introduced yourself as a father? Then
no, and it's not that I hide my daughter or the spouse, my wife. It's just more of again, I separate everything. You know what I mean? If they mix, they mix. I don't go out of my way to showcase my daughter. Or my wife doesn't really come to anything. But if she chooses to, hey, I want to go to that, your opening or whatever, you're having a show or whatever, then fine, come, but all of that has always been separate. Always. Yeah.
Interesting. Just from the beginning, was there a trauma
always been
that led
that.
into it?
I've always been like that. I've always kept just separate. I don't want to say separate identities, but I've never. I don't know. I don't even know how to say it, but it's it's just separate. It's just separate.
It's keeping your boundaries between things.
Yeah, and it's not even because I get it. You got we'll say Peter McKinnon, right? Because everybody knows Peter McKinnon is, right? And Peter doesn't I think he showed his wife once on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the very early stages of his career, and never shows his kids. Right. Maybe their shoes or their feet or stuff like that, but he never shows his kid.
Right.
And that's more of a conscious choice, right? I'm not to that extent, but it's just. If people are whoever I invite into that circle or somehow migrate into that circle, then great. I don't say, oh, you can't come to my house or anything. I mean, Devin's been to my house, right? But like I don't go out of my way to do it.
Yeah,
Right?
to like keep them away from
Yeah.
other people.
People either know it or they don't. And,
You know, now that I think about it,
Mm.
Peter McKinnon really doesn't involve his family that much. I just
No,
realized.
there's
But
only one video his wife was, well, I'm going to say, I could probably go on the record. I think there's only one. And it was like earlier in his career, he was doing a talk or something.
mhm.
And his wife obviously went on to travel with him. And he was accepting some kind of award, if I'm not mistaken. And while he's panning or shooting, his wife is in the segment. Right.
So just by chance, just by
Yeah.
accident, he did that. That's interesting.
Well, I don't even know by accident, but I guess he was just didn't, it
Yeah.
wasn't something like, oh, I'm not going to put her in, right? Because obviously he edits his videos and stuff. Like he could have easily cut her out.
Yeah, just cut that
right?
part out.
But he decided at that point to leave her in. Maybe because it was the award, maybe because it was a monumental moment for him. I don't know. But I know for the kid part, I think that's a conscious decision,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say a lot of parents try not to involve their kids in their work. I know that.
Yeah.
Or like a lot of artists, at
Mhm.
least. I do know.
I don't think I think if I was big like that, yes. Because,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't want them to be like,
Exposed to like the
ex-
limelight or like.
yeah, or just like people like, because you got to think for I'm talking like big people, right? Like
Yeah.
when you make it to that level, the amount of people that love you, there's a good fraction that hate you, right? So
That is true,
You
yeah.
don't want like your kids to be teased because, oh, your dad is so and so, or your mom is, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that may be a piece of it. But I see when a lot of our friends like don't do that, don't show their kids. But I mean, I'm not at that. I would think I would do that if I was at a certain level. But anybody see the video, my daughter's in it, whatever. It's like 500 people that watch it, so it's okay. There's billions of people on this planet. It's all right. If 200 or 500 people that see my daughter, yeah.
It's funny that you talk about like boundaries and separation because your recent post, not the umbrella one, but the one with the subframing with the yellow spiral. It was like the first photo you took on a Leica, or like your first Leica outing,
Oh yeah,
or something like that.
the DC photo.
Yeah, you
That
did
one
like
got a lot of likes.
you did like subframing on it, and I know you do. At least I've seen a lot of subframing in a lot of your street photos. Is that
Yeah.
just like, was your unconscious like boundary separation mode feeding into your like artistry vision?
To capture that lady in the thing.
Yeah,
In the
to
green-
capture
in the yellow thing?
that
No.
image, or to capture
I
any
used
image
to be
like that.
very structured in the sense of like, because I went to school and took photography, right? So
Right.
I used to be very structured, as in like this month I'm shooting frames within a frames. This month I'm shooting leading lines, and that was just a part of. I got the new camera, and because it was new to me, right? So it's a Leica. Yeah, I even put it on the post so I can just say it. So it's like 2017, 2018. I just got my Leica. Which the funny part to that story is that at the end of the whole thing, I think her name was Francesca at the Leica Store DC, who was helping me. And there's a long story to that piece, but the ending of that was, Leica is amazing in the sense that they were like, hey, do you want us to mail your box home so you could just walk out and shoot? And I was just like,
Oh,
yeah, in that situation, I didn't do it. I parked across the street, so I just took my boxes in the car. But when I bought the Q, I did that. I had them ship my boxes, and I just carried the camera out. But anyway, when I was leaving, she was like, is there anything else I can do for you?
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, you could show me how to use it. Like, I've never used a rangefinder, right? Like, I dropped like $5,000 on this camera and this lens, and I had no idea how to, like, I looked at it, I was just like, yeah, you could, how do you focus? Like, how do you do it? And she started laughing. And she was like, let me show you, right? So she shows me, and I walk out. And that photo may not have been that particular day, but it plays reference to the sense that, like, it was new to me, a new camera, new way of shooting, that I was like, okay, I'm going to take myself all the way to the basics, right? I'm not going to go out and shoot this like, oh, I know how to shoot photos and I'm going to take this and shoot. It was really, for me, I'm so like structured that I was just like, okay, I got a new camera. I'm going to shoot this from the beginning. So like I put myself through like, I'm only shooting frame within a frame. I'm only shooting leading lines. I'm only slowing and dragging the shutter.
Right.
Yeah. So my first, and like I said, slightly, I kind of alluded to it, which is when I bought that camera and that lens, it was a 50 millimeter. I had sold everything I had. right? So like I had a Pelican case with all this stuff, and I won't mention the other brand, but I had this other brand that I was shooting for decades, right? And gave me no love. And then I bought this camera, and like I went from like all this stuff to like this little camera and this one lens. Um, and I mentioned that because I couldn't afford anything else after spending 5,000 plus on a
Right.
camera and a lens, a used camera and a new lens. Um, that's all I could shoot for like years, you know? So like, not only did I go back to the basics and kind of teach like use a new camera as if I was just learning photography, like dragging it, how do I drag, not how do I drag, but like,
Right.
you know, like,
Yeah.
the speed, you know, like really being aware of what I was doing. But I also only shot a 50 millimeter and a Leica for like 3 years. So I had one camera, one lens for sure. And not to be cool, it was just, couldn't afford anything else. You know what I mean? Like I dumped all this money into this thing. I was like, I'm only shooting this.
Yeah.
Obviously I couldn't afford to shoot anything else. And so I think that was very good for me. Like decades of shooting and then taking myself down to ground zero.
Really rooting yourself in your fundamentals.
And I think that's why that photo, even though it's straight from the archives and it's an old photo, it got a lot of love. It's because the photos you'll probably start seeing pop up now are like a lot from the archives. There isn't really anything really new, is because I'm going back to look at stuff that I never looked, or I haven't looked at in years, right? Because when I was shooting, I shot digital like I shoot film,
right.
In the sense that like people shoot film. Like right now, I have like 20 rolls of film undeveloped in my fridge, right? That I've shot. I don't know when I'll develop it.
Oh, dang.
But they're just sitting there. I used to do that with shooting. So I'd go out and shoot, and I'd come home and drop the card and put a new card and go out and shoot. And I wasn't even uploading or downloading my images. Like,
oh, wow.
I was treating it like if it was a roll of film. Like I shot the card, put it away, or upload it into like an external hard drive or something. And then that was it. Like I wasn't really even looking at what I was shooting. I just wanted to shoot. So
interesting.
I have a lot of stuff that I didn't even date it. They just say DNG M240, like
still
that's the way the designator was on the camera.
Say the default file name.
Yeah. So I don't even know what things are until I pull them up, and I'm just like, when was that? And I have to look at the metadata to see the year and stuff. And yeah, so
whoa, that's exciting though. So you're just pulling this from your archives? Is this part of?
Yeah, that was like the first. That's like it said. It was like one of my first images, and I only know that because I looked at the year and I was just like, oh shit, that's like right when I bought the camera.
That's crazy. Is this part of your You're still trying to find your
No,
niche
I have
self,
a look.
or
I have a look, and something that I'm trying to do right now. And now I'm trying to see how far back was I doing it. You know, because I think, and this is just me being silly. I think, I've been shooting for so long. I think I had a lot of shots of kind of like, it's kind of like it just recycles, right? So I think whatever I'm trying to do now, I think I've done it at some point, right? So now I'm just going back to see like, okay, have I ever done what I'm doing now? And all these thousands and thousands of pictures, like, I'm sure there's one or two, right? So then that's what I'm finding. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, there you go. There's one in like 100 photos, right? That works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has your day just been spent just like searching through that stuff, or?
So in the summer, because my daughter's out of school, I don't shoot. That's why I went dark. Like I don't post anything. I don't do anything photography for like the summer. It's like my daughter's out of school, and that's like 100% of my time.
I like that actually.
Yeah,
that's nice.
So
prioritizing that time is important.
So when I, like when she didn't want to go do something, then I'd be like, okay, like I'm not shooting, but it doesn't mean I don't have to be like involved somehow in my photography. So then that's when I started like, okay, really working on like what I want to do. And I've said this before, so it's no secret. I took like a long workshop, like we call it a case study with Phil Pinman. And he's kind of like been the guy. That's why I shoot only color now. Because when we had our first mentoring session or whatever it's called, workshop or whatever.
Yeah.
Send them 100 files or whatever the picture, however the number is. I think it was 100. And, black and white, color, kind of send them a hodgepodge of everything to see like, what does he think where I should go? And the conclusion was I do color, right? In street, not black and white. And not that my black and white wasn't good. It's just, there's so many black and white photographers that a good way for me to stand out, since my color is kind of good, it's just dive into that.
Right.
So in the summer, I just took that opportunity to be like, okay, like this is the color, this is what's gonna look like. So aesthetically, I know what I want. Now it's just like, okay, I have millions of pictures. Like, let me dive into them and see what I got. I don't need to take pictures. We're like right now, I don't need to take pictures.
Right.
Right. I just spent a year and 3 months shooting Monday through Friday from 9 to 2 every day in San Antonio. And there's only 48 posts on my Instagram. Right. Quarterly, because I was paying attention to quarterly. Quarterly, I was shooting about 12,000 images. So I was shooting 3,000 shots a month easily. Right. So multiply that by a year and whatever. So it's 5 quarters. Right. That's a lot of shots that no one's seen. Right. So I have a surplus of stuff that if I didn't want to shoot for the next couple of months, I really don't have to.
Right.
Now it's just now the venture is like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, what are the pictures I want to portray who I am? So I'm really like niching down on like my brand aesthetics. Like, what do I want people, when people see an image, I want them to be like, oh yeah, it's his.
That's a John Hendricks photo.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And I've gotten that compliment because I really think it's a compliment. I got that compliment like my first year or two here, but it was when I was shooting black and white, and a gentleman showed up to one of the shows that we were doing, and he was just like, he came over, he's like, hey John, what's up? I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, man, I saw that photo and I knew it was yours. And I was just like, really? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool. Yep. Right. Yep. That was black and white though. So now it's like, okay, now I'm doing the color. I haven't had that moment yet, and I just want to be like, okay, like I really have to hone in and be known, recognized for something. So.
That's interesting.
So if you look, my color palette is, so the color palette for shooting is going to be like the primary colors. Yeah. You'll see yellow, red,
blue, some blues,
yellows. Yeah. It's yellow, red, and blue. Those are the colors that I'm looking for in all my images. Okay. That's what you're going to see, the common thread on my pictures.
It's usually not like a dark blue though, right? It's like it's kind of almost aqua.
So I'm playing within the
spectrum.
The spectrum of blue.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. I was like, most of the photos I've seen through your Instagram are a little warmer. And then there's like a hint of like some green or blue or something like that, and that's what sticks out. And this post with the yellow spiral mostly is the one that stuck out to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big photo. It's like, in the sense of like the primary thing, the yellow thing is so big, it's so prominent in the image. And I think that's why it stands out to a lot of people. Yeah. And it's just perfect timing with like it spirals into a tip and the lady's finger is like almost lined up with the tip. Like, yeah. I just had this conversation with Amanda, at Digital Pro Lab, shout out to them, which is, she commented on it. I don't know if it was DM or on the post itself, but I told her, I said, yeah, if you go back and look at most iconic photos or photographers, they've had like in the spur of their lifetime, maybe like 10, 20 photos that they're known for, right? Yeah. There's a lot of good ones, but there's like only like 10 to 20 that they're really known for. Yep. And I think that one may be one for me. So like years of shooting, I think that's going to be one that people are going to know me for.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think, because that was also one of your first photos on a Leica.
Yeah. But I tell people this too, because I teach, right? So I teach at Southwest. And so I have students all the time that come through, and I tell them, I'm like, I'm going to teach you all this stuff, and the hardest thing for you is going to be to forget about it. Because the biggest thing I tell people is like, learn as much as you can and then dump it all. Because for me, when I look back, my best pictures, I think personally, my best pictures are when I didn't know anything. It's almost like when I shot from the gut, like I shot better. It was looser. It was more free. And you can see it in the images. Right. And as you start to learn, this is just my perception, I think. As you start to learn, you get very structured. So all your images are very very niche. They look like very like, like very like, okay, that's great. Like composition is perfect, blah, blah, blah.
It's like the ideal of what someone would teach a good image to be.
Yeah.
but it's not your image or it's not your personality.
It's just too structured.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think photography, my opinion again, I think the most iconic and memorable and moving shots are free, are like really loose, really like, off kiltered, not in focus. You know what I mean? Like those are the shots, So going back to what I tell everybody is like, it's good to learn the rules and learn all this stuff, right? Because subconsciously some of that stuff is going to stick. The key is to like, it, so it's in your head, right? And to be able to just shoot freely, knowing that you already have that. You don't have to think about like, I'm going to put this here and then reframe this way. You don't have to do that because you're going to do that naturally because you've been taught it,
Right.
And because when you get taught it, you do it, like, okay, this week you guys are just going to shoot this. So you shoot that for a long time. So it becomes like muscle memory. So I think the true trick to photography for me is to go out and kind of get in that flow state that everybody talks about, where it's like, don't worry about composition. Don't worry about all this other stuff because it's in there. You're going to do it naturally. Just take the shot and let everything else fall into place because it's probably going to fall into place because you've done it so much,
Just take the shot.
Yeah, because sometimes I think when you're like, oh, this is it, and I don't know, it looks too structured. And I think that's what was happening to me. Like I was looking at my photos and they were like way too like, like. So I'm going to the archives mostly for that, to see like my freer shots,
Yeah.
like when I wasn't too hard on myself and I wasn't too stringent and paying attention to all this stuff when I was shooting a little freer. So, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, kind of going out. And what I've noticed, I don't shoot as much.
Because you're thinking about it, or you're
no,
thinking?
because it's from the gut. So I think I'm just not seeing stuff that are interesting to me.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to going out and making shots, like really creating shots, because I'm like, okay, like here's this. I just need someone to walk through, or like, oh, the shadow's hitting perfect here, and let me tilt the camera so that it's coming. The shadow's going edge to edge. Like I used to do a lot of that stuff, which is fine too.
Right.
But for me, where I am currently, it's like I'm just looking for stuff that's like just kind of like, okay, that's happening, or I could see that, and like
spikes your like your artist's brain.
What I mostly do is sit. I'll go somewhere and sit, and like I guess I'm kind of structuring it, but I'll be like, just because I'm thinking consciously of colors, I'll be like, okay, there's red and there's yellow here. How can I play with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it's more of like the color aesthetics, and then trying to figure out how I can make if something can happen here. I don't know, but I'll stay there for a little bit, and something happens, great, and not just keep going.
So there's a saying that you need a lot of time to do nothing to be creative, or something along those lines, where to create something, to be creative, you need time to do nothing, to not have anything to do, to empty your mind, to like, I don't know.
Sounds good.
I know a lot of my studio professors in college when I was learning architecture. They would teach us how to build something, what kind of materials to use, what was the best method of testing concrete or something like that. And then they would give us all the free time in the world, and I never asked because I was just like, oh, cool, we got free time. But I was always one of those students that would get coffee and then like get food and then just sit at my desk and then try and work and everything. But I overheard a conversation of a student who I hope he's still an architect now, because he asked why, like, I want to learn more and I want to get, this is their conversation. I want to learn more. I want to get farther in my career. Like, why are you not teaching us anything after like an hour of this lecture? And like the class is like three plus hours or something like that. And she's like, well, you guys need the time to like process it and do absolutely nothing if you want to. And I was like, what does that mean? And the way she explained it was, if you're creating something, you're honing in all this knowledge and you're trying to apply it to your own work, but you're not applying yourself to your work. and applying your own creative mind or your personality to this piece of art that you're creating, you're never going to attain the goal of freedom, of allowing yourself to create the thing that you need to create, because the idea needs to come to you and you can't just go out and find it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense in the sense of like, yeah, you got to wait for it. Like give yourself time to stumble upon it, either thinking of it or just kind of getting lost in it, right?
Yeah. So when you said that, you're like, I just sit around and do nothing. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah,
I was like, I love that you're doing that, because that's like you're taking your own personal time to.
But it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because I'll go out and I know, I got like 5 hours to be out there. And if I go out for 5 hours and I don't get anything, or I take like 2 pictures and maybe one is okay and the other one is just because I felt like pressing the button, it's like those are days lost, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, dang, like, but I think that's part of it too. Like I can't, it's gotta be fun, right? If I'm going out there and I'm pushing myself every day,
Yeah.
I did it for a year and change, like of going out and really taking, like to take 3,000 photos in a month. That's a lot. If you want to do the math, I don't do it, but that's a lot of photos in the sense of like, there isn't that many things to take pictures of. So I really was like working, like really pushing myself to be like, like, don't make this, shoot this, do that, shoot that, or just shoot this or shoot that. And like, I don't know if that was good. I really don't. So I say I have millions of photos, but I don't know how many are really good, And now that I think that I've been like, go out and maybe take a shot, maybe not even take a shot. Like, I don't think I even took one yesterday. Obviously I'm taking 10 shots, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I get one. So the hit rate is really low. But I think when I do make the shots, I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be really good.
I think so too.
I think if I go out a month and I only shoot the shutter 20 times, but I get 4 good shots.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would get 4 good shots if I shot the shutter 4,000 times. You know what I mean? I think so. Because I look at the hit rate, right? It's always like 10% is good shots, right? So you take 1,000 shots and maybe, I don't know, 10 are good. Maybe. No, like 100 are good.
That's like 10% is 100.
Yeah, like maybe 100 are good. Yeah, but I'm like, I'm doing it backwards. So like maybe 100 are good, but maybe like 10 are good.
Right.
And then out of the 10, you got another 10%. So like one is really good, right? Like, so out of 1,000, we still end up at one shot.
Oh, man.
That's what I was noticing. Like I shoot 1,000 shots. I have 100 pretty, like there's potential. Either, oh, that was a good moment or a good scene, but that wasn't the shot. So like, at least I know that's a potential spot, right? So out of the 100, there's that, right? And out of the 100, there's 10 like, oh, these are kind of good, right? I could, if I did a carousel of 10 photos, I could bury these in the middle, right?
Right.
Because they're not good enough to be the main shot, but like I can keep you entertained, right? And then, but there's probably one good shot,
right?
Right. So it's like I'm still doing the same thing.
That's true.
Same thing. Still doing the same thing. I'm just being more aware of like
more meticulous, more thought provoking about it.
So I don't know. It's just a stage I'm at. So we'll see.
I completely understand it, and I know there's a couple photographers I've talked to out there who. Usually when I talk to them, I ask if there's any good shots or any good photos they've taken recently, because I know they work.
You've asked me that.
Yeah. Like they work on the street. They work on editorials a lot. So like they take their camera almost everywhere with them. I'm like, have you taken any good shots? And there have been a good handful lately that are like, I'm stuck right now. Like I just can't find something that I'm interested in. And I felt like I was in that moment a couple months ago. I still sort of am, but I think I'm kind of finding my way out of it. But when I get free-formed time to take shoots or to take photos, like essay creatives, those meetups like essay creatives or Shutterpoint, there's no structure usually. It's just like models wanting to get photos for either portfolio, or like photographers want to do stuff to get stuff for their portfolio.
They want hot chicks so they can get 10,000 followers.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
let's
usually,
let's be honest with each other.
it's like usually I like to go out there and just network and just like talk to people, because I want to. I moved here about a year ago, and I was like, I want to meet new photographers that are in the area. And then it turned into, I need to try some new things. Like I need to learn how to do flash, because I didn't learn it properly.
Okay, yeah.
I want to play with lighting. I want to play with shadows more. And I would go out there, and then I would shoot less and less every single time, because nothing was
At
really.
those meetups?
Yeah, it's like nothing was really spiking my interest. Like I would try new things, and then I would be like, okay, great, but there's no good photo. Like I don't see a good photo yet, so like I'm gonna wait, and I'll get like one or two.
I get it.
But then those one or two photos that I took get shared a lot, and I'm like, oh wow. I was like, I spent the exact same time as everyone else did, and I took way less photos because I had to think about what I wanted to shoot, or like what was interesting me first.
I can see that in your work, though. I like your stuff, but I think you shoot very like aware, like very conscious, which I like. I like your stuff, but I like your stuff more in the sense that like your stuff is more like the stuff that I like is more of the social stuff.
Yes,
like when you're just shooting at like events like that, or like when you're just with your friends or whatever. I like those shots, but I always like those lifestyle shots. Yeah, that's always something I've been drawn to.
I was like, I enjoy those a lot more than
you could see it. Well, you see, it makes sense. You can see it. It comes through. You know what I mean? And I think that's another piece of photography. I think like when I was forcing shots, or like when you could tell when someone's shooting, like they like what they're doing, as opposed to like they have to do, or they're forcing themselves to do it.
Right.
It comes across. It totally comes across. I did the same thing when I went to those meetups. Yeah, I couldn't do it either. First of all, I was like, and it happened to me once, and that was enough. There was a girl that was there, and I kind of knew her outside of the photography stuff, right?
Okay.
So, and we're there, and we're hanging out, we're shooting, and she's sitting at a table with me, and she's drinking a Coke. Right, but we're sitting and talking. And it's kind of like, wow, you shoot, right? So like she's drinking a Coke. I'm like, oh, cool shot. Let me take it. So I take it. I was shooting film, so I shoot it in film. And someone saw me shooting it, and like a swarm of people came, right?
Oh,
so
gosh,
then like, so now that's the shot, right?
Right.
And now she's posing, and now it's the shot. And then one of the guys that took it posted it, like, so like, okay, you posted, like, that's another thing, like,
right.
If we're all shooting the same person, we're all shooting that one time she's standing there, we all have the same shot. Like, I'm not doing it, right? Like, I'm not gonna post it after you posted it, right?
Right.
So then he posted it, and it got like reposted on, let's say, Lomography or something. It was like another brand, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, God dang it! Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus. So that photo is in the bin of films that I have in my fridge that I haven't developed yet, but. So I don't even know if mine is good, but
I'm sure yours is amazing.
That's my problem with it. Like another thing is like if I were to pull someone and take a photo and someone was seeing what I'm doing, who am I to say, hey, no, guys, you can't take the shot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like you can't be that guy either, right?
Out. Yeah.
But so then you have the potential of having a shot that everyone else has a shot. And I just don't like that. Yeah. So I'd rather do what you do. I go there and I meet them, and then like if I want to do something with someone, then I'll be like, hey, not here, but later on,
I was like, let's go somewhere else.
I like your look or something like that, right? Even though I don't do that, I don't do models or portraits or stuff.
Right.
But if I still link up with people, which is even weirder, I think, for them, because I'm just like, hey, we should link up, and we do, and they're like, no pictures. I'm like, no, we're just hanging coffee.
No,
we're just hanging out.
I just want to meet you.
yeah, and then that gets weird, right? Like,
nowadays, I guess it does.
Yeah, because it happens to me a lot. I hang out with people a lot outside of events and stuff, and I don't know if the perception is like we're going to hang out, or like I don't know.
I guess it's what they know you for first, or like your first impression of them, and then when you ask to hang out, it's I don't know. It's like if it's a coworker, like, oh, are we gonna talk about work?
Coworkers?
No, I don't know. It's like if you met them at like a job or something.
No jobs, don't work. Jesus. But the only people I know for good, for sure, like I guess they would call co-workers, is after a year and a half of walking downtown. I know Brooklyn, the homeless lady down by the market. I know, like I know I know like those people. I know like all the door. I know like the ballet guys.
Oh, heck yeah. That's so cool, though.
I know all the hostesses. Because I'm walking there every day, so I was
Wow.
seeing everybody at work.
Right. It was like the routine of like, oh, hey, here comes John.
Yes,
And then you'd go and talk to them and get to know them more. And then they'd be like,
So I
that
know
was cool.
everybody's story,
That's so cool.
which is
That's very much the journalist in you too. I like that.
that is way crazy when like there's a guy who works at the double decker place, big Samoan guy. He's trying to be a wrestler. I know his wrestling name. I know he's trying to be a wrestler. I know that's what he does.
Shoot.
I also know he likes to draw. He sits there and draws. The relationship got so crazy that one time I was walking with Devin. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He's like, "I'm gonna get married." I'm like, "Damn, I didn't even know you had a girlfriend." He's like,
What?
"Yeah, I'm gonna get," like they tell me everything, and it's wild. It's wild. But I know if I were to go walking with somebody, I mean, the few times that I do, you'll see it. You'll see like how like the interaction with the hostesses or whatever. Like,
Oh yeah, I was with I think I was at Courtney. I don't know where we were at actually. I don't remember the event, but it was just a normal group of everyone, and you went to go say hi to somebody, and someone else pulled you, and they were like, "Oh, John, hey," and you're like, "Hey, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while." And then I looked over, and Courtney just goes, "It's like everyone knows John."
it's only because of that. Like I'm out all the time, and I sit down like, I do have portraits of these people.
Oh, do you really?
I do. I've shared a couple, but I do have a lot of portraits of these people. And what's funny is that the way I do it, and I mean, I guess I'm a guest, so I can talk about myself a lot. But it seems like I've been talking about myself a lot.
I mean, that's like the main point.
But this is the good thing for people, like if they're gonna watch this or listen, is I'll meet someone and they know I have a camera, and we talk, and then I go on my way. And then I meet them again, or I see them every day, right? So like,
right.
after like 2 weeks, 3 weeks of seeing them. So let's say encounter wise, let's say it's like 12 encounters, 15 encounters. I know they're thinking like, yo, this dude's got a camera. He's never asked to take my picture. So it gets to the point where it is like, I realize that we're almost there. And then I'll just be like, hey, you know what? Let me get your picture. And then they're all about it. As opposed, and I say that because as opposed to if you meet someone and then you're like, oh, let me take your picture.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's too intrusive. It's like, I don't know. There's no equity, right? Like it's like a bank, right? You can't just be making withdrawals. You got to make a deposit, right?
Right.
So I think
like the trust hasn't been established at that point,
Yeah, well, people do it
after
all the time.
like
Street
being
photography,
That's
street
true.
portraits, environmental portraits. Like, hey, you look cool. I like your glasses. Boom.
Oh, that
and
is
then
true.
you're on
That's
your way.
true.
So it happens, but the way I tend to do it is more of like, I'll see someone. I mean, I've done that. I've done that where I stop people and they're really intriguing. But I would say 8 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, I've seen them already. You know what I mean? Like they've seen me.
Or you've talked to them before somewhere.
Or they've seen me. Like there's one lady that I see that she goes to lunch at the same time all the time. So I've seen her many times. And she knows I know she's seen me because I've seen her, right? Because I'll be on the corner and she walks across the street, comes out of the building, whatever. And then when I stop her for a photo, it's not a big deal, right? Because like she's seen me work in the street so much. So,
right.
Yeah.
Huh. It'd be really cool to see a whole gallery, like just like a solo gallery of all those portraits.
Yeah,
like,
I think I don't know what to do, man. I was talking to Courtney about it, like about what am I going to do without, like a book? I don't know.
A book would be really cool, actually. My friend has a book of every time he's traveled, he's taking a photo just from standing point of view, looking at his feet. So like he had different shoes on. He'd wake up with like no shoes on sometimes, or just like walk around.
That's cool.
And he has a whole book of just like it's like 50 pages of him in different places.
That's cool.
Yeah,
is he on like a manhole or anything to acknowledge where he's at?
A manhole?
Like like the sewer.
Oh no. Usually he'll be at like national parks or like
okay.
So it'll just be the ground around him.
Got it.
So maybe it could be just like his backyard 50 times.
I don't know. No, I'm just saying that's cool. I get it.
It was also like in I want to say the duration of like 10 years or something like that. So you can see the
really
age in
cool.
his feet like
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
change. It's
That
crazy.
is cool. That is cool.
But that'd be really cool to see a portrait of San Antonio locals.
Yeah.
From John Hendricks.
Like, I've seen a lot of people do stuff here, like, homage to San Antonio. They'll do shows about San Antonio and stuff. I mean, shoot, I did one too, but
Yeah.
I just don't do. I would have to get a hold of all of them because I don't do releases. I don't do model releases, right?
Oh yeah.
So to use them in any sort of way, I would have to get. I'm pretty sure I could because what also happens is they'll find me, send me a DM, and be like, "Hey, can I have those pictures you took of me?"
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they always ask me like how much, or I'll buy them from like,
no,
right?
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
That's also another big topic that I want to talk about. I was like, everyone should have a photo. You shouldn't have to pay for your photos, but we do need to close this out.
Yeah, we do need to close that.
Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening. This has been Small Talks with Jet and John. Cool. And that's it.
Yeah, good.
Sweet. Thanks, John.